It's Clark and Perry
on the case.
Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry do what it takes. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry investigate.
The activities and interests of local artists in the Windy City's finest throughout both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Available on TELUS, Optic TV, On Demand, VidFlex, YouTube, and more for limited time only. Terms and conditions apply.
Da-na-na-na.
Hello and welcome again to the Windy City's finest. I'm Clark, he's Perry, and we are joined once again by Darin. Now, Darin, would you consider yourself like an active TTRPG role player?
I would, yes. And yeah, I've been involved in it since high school, which is a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I've done D&D, Pathfinder, Vampire the Masquerade. Yeah, I like gaming in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do spend a lot of time with tabletop.
And for those folks that don't know as well too, tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG, has been around for a long time, a long time. And it's recently gone through, I think, in the past, like, let's say 5 to 10 years, a big, huge popularity boost as well too.
Yeah.
When would you say that you started your love for TTRPG?
That was in grade 9, which would have been 1984-ish. So
goodness.
So it's like the classic D&D era.
Yeah.
Kind of like role-playing Dark Ages.
Yeah.
During the 80s, it was kind of stigmatized.
Yeah, it was.
Had a lot of fear around it. So,
well, yeah. You had a bunch of teenagers down in the basements or in the garages, and people just start making up stories, right? So
that is exactly what I lived through.
But funnily enough, that's what you're doing. You're making up stories.
Yes,
You're going on adventures and all that stuff too, and just trying to play basically a board game.
Yeah, it's collaborative and fun and social, and people get to improvise and generate story and feel like they're part of kind of a creative process.
Yeah. So you're actively playing right now in a few of these different engines.
Yeah, we just finished a D&D campaign that lasted over 2 years.
Okay.
We actually completed it. We went through the whole, tied off all the loose ends, and we were done. So that was a big commitment. But we did that over Discord and Roll20, which is some online platforms. So
That's right.
So we can get together because of COVID.
Yep.
So it's like, hey, what can we do? Well,
let's experiment in an online format.
Yeah.
Let's experiment with the digital age as well too.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to kind of, actually even talk about some of the parallels of what we just did and what we're talking about right now as well too. Kind of being in this fantasy setting, being able to write your own stories as well too. What would you say has been or has been your pull when it comes to, or your pull when it comes to these stories that you create?
My pull. Let me think. Contextualize what you mean by pull.
Yeah. So, what exactly do you typically enjoy? What is the suspense? Is it the suspense? Is it the drama? Is it the combat? What is it for you?
I think as characters develop and they kind of start generating their own histories, how those characters interact with each other. When there's kind of inside jokes, and our campaign, for instance, there was this one magic item that our dungeon master introduced us to, and it was supposed to be pivotal and important. But in our explorations, we randomly found a magic whip at the bottom of some water, and it seemed like if you use that whip, the rolls just seemed to be magical and lucky, and so it became a joke that this whip was the chosen weapon of destiny, basically.
Yeah.
And so that inside joke, it carries on, and even outside the game, we'll still make little jokes referencing it, like somebody will use a weapon. It's like, well, it isn't a whip, but it's okay. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're able to have those experiences because, you just kind of get to dive in and find out. And is it kind of more of a loose play style that you play? Like when you first get introduced to a game, is it very loose? Is it what would you describe it like?
I'd say it's mostly loose. We have rules, and that helps us sort of keep it. There's a common understanding of how things are operating, but sometimes the rules you have to kind of I'd say the drama and the storytelling is more important than the rules itself. So
Yeah.
if you have to cast the rules aside to make something feel better, then we'll do it.
I think they call that the rule of cool.
The rule of cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've
exactly
heard
it.
that one be said before, where it's like, yeah, you know what, the rules, we could be sticklers for it, but
Yeah.
you know, diving out of the airplane or blimp or something like that, and falling so that you can catch the ring of power or something
Right.
like that is, well, that's going to be super cool, right?
That's exactly it.
It's kind of a big element of storytelling there. So I have to ask, do you enjoy more or less being a player, or do you prefer kind of taking the reins and the seats of the story master or game master is what they
I
call
like
them?
I like running the games and presenting the stories and giving players as much sandbox experience as I can. So it's like, instead of channeling them down a story path that I've predetermined as being like what I want to happen, sometimes they deviate and go off in different directions, and I feel like that creates a lot more texture and interest.
Yeah.
And I feel like it engages the players too, because they feel like their choices is forming the story, like what their choices are they're meaningful.
Yeah. They actually feel like they're impacting the world that you've placed ahead of them, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people I know can probably get themselves bogged down and being like, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. So when you're first maybe introducing a campaign to new players or like older players that you've known for a while, what exactly gets you started?
How do I introduce them?
Or like how do you start building a new campaign?
Oh, okay.
Step one.
Step one, a new campaign. Let me think about that one for a sec. Probably don't think of an end goal, but I probably think of relationships first. So having other characters they can interact with that maybe have like some dark secrets or some texture to their character that the characters may or may not hook into. So I spend a lot of time sort of developing these, what they call non-player characters or NPCs, and kind of leaving them fleshed out enough that I could develop them further if the characters find them interesting.
Yeah.
But not so fleshed out that I get bogged down in details. So yeah, they're almost like, if you played video game versions, it's almost like these side quest things where you can encounter them, but if you ignore them, it's sort of like it doesn't have any consequence. But yeah, I'd say NPCs.
Yeah.
It's all about the relationships.
It's all about the relationships,
Yeah.
all about those character developments, right? To kind of build upon those relationships. It's very interesting. What would you say has probably been, I don't know, like your goofiest character that you've had to make?
Whenever someone asks that, I go back to my high school, and this one guy I played with named Chris, he had this rogue thief character named Basil.
Named Basil. Nice.
Named Basil.
Not Basil, Basil.
Basil, yep. I guess there's two stories, but this one I always remember because it's very short.
Yeah.
But him and his barbarian friend were climbing down this deep pit to get to the bottom. The barbarian made it, so he climbed down the walls. He's very adept, but he blew his roll and he failed. So he fell from a big distance, and he kind of like took some hard falls, like thump, 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 down all these like little ledges and cliff faces, and he hit the bottom. And the barbarian friend named Clayton, he came up and he goes, "Are you okay?" And Basil just goes, "Just winded." So I always think of this, because he just had this massive fall and
try to play it off. To play it off, walk it off. It should be fine. Yeah. Oh man, that's that. And I feel like that's something that like a group of friends that have gone. That was like textbook, something that I guess that relationship could build upon and explore about as well too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when it comes to character building, I guess, what exactly how do you go through building a character?
For myself?
Yeah.
Or how do I encourage others to do it?
Let's start with yourself.
Myself, okay. I don't think about their abilities or anything. I sort of think about some of their core values and maybe background a little, and then sort of feel like what kind of character I want to build around them. Like, we're playing a Star Wars game now.
Okay.
So we're playing Star Wars RPG, and we're going to be a bunch of bounty hunters.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you think bounty hunters, there's a lot of typical things you could think of. But I want it to be I want to be the kind of like, I thought of myself as being the negotiator, but my
Mhm.
character comes from a corporate background.
Right.
So he's came up with this privileged. His parents have these resort moons that they have people visiting. So he had a very cushy life, and
Yeah.
he's decided I'm going to cast them off. I'm going to go off on my own. So he goes off, and all of a sudden he's surrounded by kind of rough people, and
Yeah.
he has no experience in it. So he gets into situations and he gets shot. And
Yeah.
he's just like, and then he always complains like other people are getting beat up horribly, and then he'd be like, "Oh man, guys, that was tough. Like I got shot. Like, like it still hurts."
Yeah.
And they're all like beaten up and like getting healed up. So it's an inside joke. I'm like this cushy
Yeah.
corporate boy.
The classic, like, do you remember the time? I don't know how much it hurts for you. I don't really care. I got shot that last time.
I got, and my clothes, they're damaged.
Yeah, and they're damaged. I had to go and find stuff.
Yep.
Man,
Yep.
I had no idea how inconvenient this life was.
Yep. So it's
No, that's insane.
those kind of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess you kind of focus on more of like what makes them tick, or like things for them to focus on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That allows you to play them better too. Because if you just have the statistics of the character, it's sort of like you're just sort of rolling dice at that point.
Yeah, you're just looking at numbers. You're making it only a numbers.
And you have
game.
nothing to play off of. So
Yeah.
you as an actor, you know, it's like if you understand the character you're playing,
Yeah.
and if you're doing anything improvisational,
Mm-hmm.
then you got stuff you can sort of, there's this wall you can sort of bounce off of.
Yeah. So, what would you suggest to new people trying to create their first characters in any type of engine of RPG?
Oh. Well, I would tell them to do the same thing I do. It's like,
Yeah.
make a character you are interested in playing that's outside of yourself. Like,
Mhm.
and kind of break stereotypes. So, yeah, you're a bounty hunter, but you have to be a classic ruffian, like,
The brooding sort.
yeah, like put a spin on it that's it'll engage you longer and you won't get bored
Mm-hmm.
because you'll have some meat there. And the guy conducting the game too, he can play off that as well,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives them something to do. That's okay. I guess we're gonna have more fighting, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Are there any experiences that you or like or types of characters that you're able to definitely identify as a GM that you know that you can play off well?
Oh, that type of characters. Wow.
Mm.
I think anything that breaks cliche
Yeah.
is, at least that's a start. Like if it's too stereotyped, there's like nothing there. It's like
Because it's all been done.
it has all been done,
Yeah.
and your thinking falls into stereotypical ways of looking at them too. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And I guess that would kind of limit yourself on the improvisational, like, sense of discovery that you find about those characters.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's why a few of them would fall flat, because everybody knows and has probably read up on like a Reddit story about like, oh, the classic character trying to play the brooding, person who lost his parents,
Right.
the orphan,
Yep.
like that stuff as well
Yep.
too, right?
Yeah.
But again, you just want to break those cliches and
Yep.
kind of just dive right into it too. So you've had the experience of being a GM. What have been your favorite settings?
Oh, my favorite settings.
Mm.
I think classic D&D Forgotten Realms
Ooh,
is always, because it's
like Sword Coast, that
Sword
whole
Coast,
vibe.
Baldur's Gate, Waterdeep, all the.
Yeah.
That's a very classic D&D, and it's sort of in its golden age
Mhm.
when all those things came up. So I've got memories attached to it. So yeah, otherwise it's the ones I create, like like for the vampire game, and just going historical. That has some interesting flavor to it as well. Yeah.
Do you take a lot of inspiration from
History?
like history?
Yeah. Pull from history. And I think Game of Thrones, watching it,
Yeah.
at least to the point where it didn't fall off that cliff
Yeah.
at the
Yep.
end, then that was very inspirational, because he pulls a lot from like actual historical things. Like you
Mhm.
watch the show and you're kind of like shocked and amazed by all this, and it's like, oh yeah, he pulled it from this historical thing, and that's pretty fascinating too. How humanity has developed over all this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
No, a very interesting way, and I guess that can kind of like that travel, getting that that cultural sense as well too, and understanding like what has happened in the past, and have those aesthetics can really kind of inform your game, right?
Travel and just hiking and being in the wilderness, that really helps for D&D, because if you're just at home and you're stereotypically in your mom's basement and you've not gone out into the actual wilderness, you can have a perspective on it that, I don't know, you can make it feel more real rather than like again, a stereotypical desert. Like, you imagine what a desert might be like.
You just don't have you just don't have the words to describe it. I mean, if you've been just playing it in a garage or a basement the entire time, you definitely know what a dungeon is like. But but the actual environment is just so much more different too. So like I've heard a few times before of like, yes, you want to definitely experience kind of like the wilderness that you are trying to describe. But how do you kind of how do you understand parts of those pieces or areas of environment that you haven't been to?
Well, modern day, it's a lot easier because you can there's a lot of online material you can like access, and their exposure to media is like so broad now and so immediate. Not like when I grew up where it's like you're going to watch something, it's all scheduled, it's going to be Thursday night, 7 o'clock, you have half hour, if you miss it, it's just gone. Now it's like, for better and worse, you have a lot of stuff to watch all the time. But I find that I'm starting to think it's like being given keys to a candy shop. When before you used to be able to, you have to pick and choose very carefully what you wanted. Now I feel like entertainment's a little bit so saturated and available. You can just flick away from something. Like you can watch it part way and just sort of like, meh, let's see what's next. So there's sometimes where I've seen videos part way and then I'm just like, you're not committed.
And I mean, we have all these small supercomputers in our pockets the entire time as well too, that are able to just kind of show us any image, try to show off any type of aesthetic in any type of environment as well too. Because I mean, this stuff has all been done before. So actually, kind of on that, this has all been done before. The creativity I've heard comes from somebody else's creativity, and it's all inspired from other things. So like, not that there's a perfect answer to this, but how do you try to stay original to yourself?
Oh yeah,
it's a big one. I also have to ask myself this question too sometimes.
As far as story?
Yeah, like story. Absolutely, you're able to take inspirations. But what do you think makes your stories individual?
That is a very challenging question.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's all been done before. And to some extent, even when you're creating something original, you feel like you're still plucking from stuff that's familiar to you, or if that's something you've read, or maybe even just a scene from a movie you can pluck out and maybe appropriate for a different purpose.
And I guess to elaborate further on that question is where would you say your line is of what is original to yourself versus what might be a little too copycat, that might be, for lack of a better way of saying it,
to kids? I think it again all comes to the characters that are injected into it. So it's one thing, I think humanity is so multifaceted and interesting by itself. And all these tropes and story arcs and things like that, they have been repeated, and you can see them in like Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi being sort of King Arthur and Merlin, let's say.
Right.
Like there's those similar kind of archetypal. It's just how you're skinning them and what characters you're injecting in their own personalities. That's what makes the stories become unique.
And it's about with the combination of the environment and what those relationship of the characters are. That really kind of makes something unique, because I guess every relationship would technically be unique in and of itself if everybody is individually unique too. I mean, even when you said like King Arthur and Merlin is akin to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke, like the Lion King was Hamlet. It is the story of Hamlet as well too, right? Like, I mean, I guess that's another example as well too that can help you think about it.
I never thought of it that way. Lion King being Hamlet.
100% is. 100%.
They've just reskinned it in a way. And some variation, but
Yeah. So I mentioned that, again, we got these supercomputers in our pocket that are able to kind of look up and show us anything to help us kind of maybe understand a little bit more. But we seem to live in a digital age. Now, I guess you mentioned that during the COVID years, you were able to kind of dabble a little bit into Roll 20, I think this program was. You kind of dabbled a little bit into digital formatted tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, it revealed some benefits because, like you said, supercomputer in your pocket and basically have everything on at all your notes and everything.
Yeah.
Like right on hand.
Yeah.
You don't have to flick through anything. If you have to look up something in particular, digitally it's a lot easier to find it.
Yeah.
Like within like 10 seconds.
You can just Google the rule or something. You don't have
there
to...
it is.
Yeah.
And there's limitations though, because we'd use Discord for the audio. But as anyone who's had experience with Zoom calls and stuff, if multiple people start talking, for some reason it becomes way more confusing. So I find some people talk more and other people talk less because of it. So it creates this contrast.
Yeah.
Some people take over the game and they do all the talking, and the others sort of recede.
And then play the numbers game, more or less.
Yeah.
The dice.
Otherwise, you're trying to get a point across, but the way the audio works, it sort of clips people in and out.
Yeah.
So you're not really heard because your audio's chopped up. So, yeah, there's good and bad.
What has helped me in the past with that, because I agree, I've encountered the same issue, is that I find cameras, having everybody on camera really helps, because you can read those social cues of somebody about to speak or about to like, oh, I think I have something, and like you're able to kind of negotiate. Of course, there's always going to be somebody talking over somebody, but it happens less often when you actually see the person almost getting ready to speak on something as well too. In contrast to, of course, the digital arts, what would you say is your preferred? Would you prefer in person, or would you prefer more of a digital experience?
I think for D&D, I like in person better.
Okay.
So D&D, Pathfinder, that fantasy RPG, like having figures on the table and you're moving them around.
Yeah. More
tactile and more party atmosphere.
Yeah.
The rules are complex enough, but light enough that it's like you can sort of dive in and out of it pretty easy. So, yeah, for my vampire campaign, it's a lot more depth to it.
Yeah.
And I find the online platform actually is more conducive to getting into a lot of existential questions about immortality and
it makes you really take the deep thinks. Whereas like I guess that D&D like in-person atmosphere is more, I would say like even engaging, I guess more immediate or something like that.
It's much more dynamic and social, and like it is a party atmosphere to me. Yeah.
Awesome. So when it comes to, I guess, like let's even talk about some of the map generations as well too. How exactly do you draw out your settings?
Wow. So my background in graphic design and stuff, it can get very elaborate. So
I bet it can.
So I tried my hand at making my own whole setting, this Branathia. So I got this whole land set up, and I went into the map making. It's very Tolkien kind of thing, but you build the map first, so it's educational because you start looking into like, oh, where should deserts be placed based on the mountains, and so got deep into the map making, and I guess I'm sort of losing track of what your question was.
No,
actually.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say, what is your like 3 hard and fast rules when it comes to map making?
Hard and fast rules. Start with landforms and oceans. Build the mountains, and the mountains will dictate to you where the rivers should flow from there.
Okay.
Because they'll come from the mountains and they'll flow down to the ocean. So you can almost see it kind of spells it out for you. Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay. Well, that's you said that you learned a lot about geography of like where the desert should be placed as well too. Have there been any, like, I guess, surprises or things that you, like, interesting facts that you learned while delving into that?
I think there's something about leeward side of hills and dunes. There's always a long slope, then usually a kind of a dip on the other side.
Right.
Like, that's where I started realizing, this is a long time ago, but started realizing land is a lot like water.
Yeah.
How it has bigger and smaller waves, basically.
Well, I think that's, well, I mean, applicably, like the coulees that we see just out here, like with Lethbridge and within Medicine Hat here, like, I mean, this was all formed during the Ice Age periods where, and water used to flow through here.
Yeah. Like
nobody's business. And yeah, no, I actually didn't think about land being akin to water in a way, but
especially sand. Sand is like the
the
biggest example. Just seeing how it flows, just slow moving waves. Yeah.
So, what would be your biggest piece of advice, departing piece of advice to people who are looking to be like new GMs, new character builders, new world builders, or anything like that?
I think I'd go back to my original D&D game set, which was called Keep on the Borderland.
I played this one too.
Have you? Okay.
Yes.
So
oh yeah.
Very basic. Just keep it basic and simple. Don't dive deep into complexities because you'll find you have too many things to handle.
Yeah.
So the Keep in the Borderlands, it's one little community, a walled keep. Everything's contained in it that you need as far as playing, and then there's sort of generally meaningless dungeon crawls nearby that the players could sort of like get their feet wet, and then expand your world past that. So start small, expand outward as the players sort of delve different directions. Yeah.
Start small and then start learning.
Yeah, and just grow and expand as you feel more and more comfortable. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think this is all the time that we have, and rather I should say the sunlight that we have. Thank you again so much for tuning in. This has been the Windy City's Finest. I'm Clark, he's Perry, and of course, last but not least, we've been joined by Darin. Stay tuned. We'll catch you next time.
It's Clark and Perry on the case. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry do what it takes. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry investigate.
The activities and interests of local artists in the Windy City's Finest throughout both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Available on TELUS, Optic TV, On Demand, VidFlex, YouTube, and more for limited time only. Terms and conditions apply.
Da-na-na-na.